I was just about to use that when we come back from commercial.
Sorry. I don't know.
That was amazing. You did an amazing job of not breaking those, too. 1, 2, 3. Post Show and Tell with Dr. Ken.
Welcome to Post Show and Tell with Dr. Ken. I'm Joz Wang, your host, and this is my guest co-host.
Captain Lavender!
And Captain Lavender, you are a...
I'm a puppet activist.
Now, before we talk to you, Captain Lavender, about this episode, what we'll do is we'll cue it up with Albert Tsai doing the Tsai-nopsis of this episode. Ken does stand up.
Sorry. You said Tsai-nopsis? I know a pun when I smell one.
Ken does stand up.
For the season finale of season 1, we have Ken try stand up.
Yes.
So the synopsis on this one.
So the episode, for the most part, is pretty self-explanatory. It's following kind of the footsteps of real Ken, where he, so Ken, when he was a doctor, the way he became an actor was through stand-up.
Right.
He started doing stand-up and found out he liked it.
And he was doing that all through medical school.
Yeah.
Alongside, obviously getting his medical training.
Yeah. And also when he became a doctor, he did that at night and stuff. He went to clubs and performed, did open mics.
So in this episode,
Jeff Ross, a comedian, he plays Doug, who is Ken's old college buddy from Duke, who he does stand up, Doug, and he invited Ken to his show at the Laugh Factory. But Doug kind of ends up embarrassing Ken, and so Ken signs up for an open mic to prove that he can do stand-up too.
right.
But Ken actually, he had some trouble coming up with material because he ended up doing, like, his jokes didn't really work.
Right.
And he was kind of dying on stage. Then he turned to doctor material. And he did a great job.
Yeah, because he was making jokes about stuff that he really knew about.
Yeah, so it was more natural. And also, so Dave and Molly, they support Ken in this. Oh, and also DK, Dana
Dave.
Lee, who plays the grandfather.
Right.
He comes over in town, and I basically asked Ken and Allison for this, like, violent video game that everyone at school has. And DK says, if you can do more push-ups than me, I'll get you the video game.
Oh, my gosh.
So there's this, like, push-up competition, and Molly, like, helps train me. But, like, she doesn't want to train me, but I threatened to reveal her fake ID. So I'm like, I said, fake ID, and what if I tell Mom and Dad about the fake ID I found in your purse? And she says, you're bluffing. And I said, am I Madonna Bronkowitz?
So that's the name on her fake ID.
Yeah. And then, so at the end, Ken, and then it ends up that DK beats me in the push-up competition. But he gives me a new deal, double or nothing. If I can beat him in the 100-yard dash, then next week, then he'll get me 2 video games. So Molly tries to train me, but I end up running. So she doesn't know how to train me to run. But then we hear an ice cream truck, and I run at like full speed, screaming "ice cream truck!"
We know that Dave likes ice cream.
Yeah.
What's going on at Welltopia in the season finale?
Welltopia, they're basically just they want to support Ken in doing the stand up, and they come along to support him.
So what I love about this episode is that there's so many real life parallels, as you alluded to.
Yeah.
Ken Jeong actually went to Duke, and they put that into the show.
Yes.
And actually, all season long, we've been getting hints that Ken has a comedic side to him, right? Obviously, he's funny in the show, but we know, like, on that episode with Will Yun Lee when he played Kevin O'Connell at the gala.
He hosted it with his comedy.
And Allison talks about how funny he is all season long and all the jokes that he does.
Yeah.
So we've been getting hints all along the way that he's not just, like, a silly character, a funny character, but that he actually has a desire to perform.
Yeah. which of course parallels into Ken's real life, where he was a doctor but also did stand up at night and open mics and stuff. And also at the end, there's this cliffhanger where Jamie Masada, the owner of the Laugh Factory, texts Ken that he wants to manage him, and then we all think it's ridiculous that he would give up a medicine to go perform, and we make a bunch of jokes, but we end on a close-up of Ken actually looking at the text and considering it, and that's the cliffhanger.
Right. Well, I mean, like I said, there's a lot of parallels with real life, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are very surprised that Ken Jeong in real life was a doctor and that he would go into comedy.
Yeah.
And it's unusual. Who else has done it before? I really don't know if anybody else has.
Yeah.
But that's why there's so many things that are so unique about Ken's story that make it a perfect scenario for the sitcom that the show's about.
Yeah. So season 2, maybe we'll see Ken either further exploring acting or stick to being his medical career, but also having stand up as like a sideline.
Right. Well, in real life, he was a doctor for a long time, and he was doing both.
Yeah.
And it was, we don't know at what point for the Dr. Ken character this may happen, but there was a long time where Ken Jeong himself was doing both, and he had to make a decision at some point to, do the comedy full time.
Yeah, switch full time to acting.
Yeah. But I love this episode because we get to see Ken pursuing his dream. We actually know he's a great doctor.
Yeah.
And he obviously loves his patients and his work.
Yeah.
But he has this other passion that he's so, that he's actually so driven towards doing as well. Yeah. So I think it sets up nicely for other potential storylines and other ways to explore the character.
Yeah, maybe with stand-up, or if he goes past stand-up in acting wise, and maybe maybe actually follow Ken's life.
Well, one of the things that I've always liked about Dr. Ken is that there's so much comedic talent that comes into the show through guest stars, right? Yes. So kind of at the beginning, we saw a lot of these great talented comedians come in as Dr. Ken's patients, so we get little tidbits of that. Yeah. But now we've really opened the door, starting with Jeff Ross starting with Dicky Wexler character, of seeing comedians come in and like do their thing as comedians.
Yeah. George Weiner played Dicky Wexler, and he's a great comedian. It's really funny.
I think just all season long, there have been so many great guest stars of comedy talent that aren't the regular cast.
Margaret Cho, played Ken's sister. She also played an actress. Well, actually, a talk show host.
Doctor show host.
Yeah, like a Dr. Oz type thing.
Right.
But, she was also very funny.
And, and all season long, we've been talking about how much heart this family has. So I think it's wonderful to see the family, even though they joke about it at the end, like, why would you give up medicine? Yeah. But of course, they support him, they love him, and the same thing with his Welltopia family.
Yeah.
So I think it's so much fun and exciting, and I think it's a lovely way to wrap up a whole season.
Yes.
With everything that's going on and all the different storylines. I think the season finale did have to focus around Ken.
Yes. Well, and I like the way they used a cliffhanger to end the season on like a beginning of Dr. Ken's possibly new life.
Right.
Yeah.
So, all right. So right now, with the airing of the season finale, we may or may not know. Right now, we're taping this. The season finale hasn't actually aired yet. But right now, as we're taping this, we don't know if there's a season 2 for Dr. Ken yet.
Yes.
So, if there's a Dr. Ken season 2, what would you hope for your character of Dave?
I really like those interesting hobbies that he has. But I'd like to maybe see more of his dynamic with the his crossovers into the HMO.
Oh,
it was really fun to do that.
Yeah, we never really talked about it, but that episode where you were getting the shot.
Yes, that was really fun to hang out with all the HMO guys, and it was fun to act with them and be in scenes with them.
Right. Yeah, and right. Up until that episode, the kids. Allison and I had some interaction with the Welltopia folks, but the kids didn't really.
Yeah.
So that would be fun.
Yeah. And also maybe see more of Dave at school, because the most we really actually saw Dave at school was Dave's Valentine with
the character Emma.
Yeah, Emma. But maybe see him during the school day, what he does at school, because we know he has a little bit of quirkiness at home with all his interesting hobbies.
Yeah, I really liked this season that we got to see some of Dave's friends. We got to see the Ian Chen's character Henry.
Yeah.
We also got to see his crush Emma.
Yeah.
So we got a little bit of tidbit of some of Dave's social life, but
Yeah.
I personally would love to see more.
Yeah, maybe at school, after school activities, just more with his kind of schoolmates and what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk for a second, just wrapping up season 1. Like, can you remember, well, I mean, you shot the pilot like almost over a year ago, actually.
We shot it in April, so almost a year ago. Wow.
So, but then you shot the rest of the episodes, starting from episode 2, like in the fall.
Yeah.
Basically. But can you remember back to shooting the pilot?
I actually can. It was really fun.
But back then, a pilot, anything could happen to it,
Yeah. It could get picked up and become a series. You never know. Yeah, but it was a really great pilot, and I think I was positive it would become a series.
Well, what I thought was striking about the pilot was how much chemistry there was, just especially between the family units. I mean, everybody really, but just that chemistry picked up even further. And I think just from when you started taping the season, episode 2, it was really clear that everybody got along really well, but really knew how to work with each other too.
Yeah, we had great chemistry. Yeah, and we had fun off set and on set, and it was just a big family.
So as we saw in this episode, Ken is trying something new. We know that Dr. Ken is a doctor, and we also know that in real life, Ken Jeong was a doctor, and that in real life, he became a comedian. So there's a lot of parallels to real life in this particular episode, which is why I think it's so moving. But what's really great is that in both real life and on the show, that's not really the path that he intended to take.
No, he was not. I was not supposed to be puppet either, too. I was supposed to be shag carpet on the bottom floor of a van, and luckily I was rescued.
Well, you were rescued, and then how did you get to what you were doing, into puppet activism?
Many, many years of practicing being activist. And so what I did was, I was one time on the Twitter. I'm all about the social media. I was on the Twitter doing debate for president. Not this one. This one is crazy. No, the one that I was on was for Obama and Romney. And he made a comment about Big Bird, who is basically a third cousin of mine. I did that 23andMe, and we are related. So I put a Twitter out, Million Puppet March, and everybody came to DC and followed me, and we marched. Yay!
Now, I actually heard about this Million Puppet March. You're not joking about that, are you?
Oh no! 1,500 people and puppets. The friendliest, fuzziest puppet march ever. And a march period.
Now, did you feel like you made a difference by marching on Washington?
Did Romney get elected president?
No, he didn't.
But weirdly, it seems like everybody would want him this go round. Oops, I'm not getting politicky.
Well, if you had a hashtag this time around, what would it be in this crazy presidential election? Sorry.
Fuzzy knowledge? No. Hashtag.
Okay. So you don't have to have a hashtag.
That was my hashtag. It was only 139 characters, so that worked.
Okay. Well, I have to ask you, with this crazy presidential election going on, do you think that puppets would actually make better decisions than what we've got on the table here?
They're not puppets. They're puppets. Because they're very silly. Of course they're puppets.
Well, they're less fuzzy than you were, most of them.
Are you making googly eyes at me? Because I'm making them at you this whole time.
What are you staring at?
Sorry. YouTube, it's YouTube!
So one of the funny things that happens in this episode is all of this stuff that's going on with DK, the grandpa, and Dave. So Dave wants this violent video game, and in order to get it, grandpa says, we're going to do this push-up challenge. I actually want to talk to you, Captain Lavender, about the violent video game. I mean, Dave is a little young to be playing these violent video games, or is he?
I don't know. I mean, I'm looking forward to Grand Theft Auto Sesame Street version someday. That'd be fun.
Well, I mean, violence in the media is a hot topic, especially when we talk about children. And, puppets are really associated with children a lot of the times. What do you feel about puppet-on-puppet violence and, how it's depicted in front of children?
Well, I do hold a grudge with Snuffleupagus, I have to say. But I would never beat him up or anything. I don't know.
Sorry.
Are you judging me and my not knowing the answer to that question? I'm supposed to know everything. I'm the one puppet that's supposed to know everything in Puppet Kingdom.
Okay, Captain Lavender, I'm really sorry I put you on the spot like that. I know that you don't represent all the puppets around the world.
Thank you. I appreciate and I accept your apology.
So one of the things that we were really excited about when Dr. Ken came on the air was just that it was another depiction of Asian Americans on TV. Because we know that it was really groundbreaking for Fresh Off the Boat to be on the air, and that's one Asian American family depiction, and here's Dr. Ken with a second. And it makes a difference to see more and more depictions of a minority group on TV. Now with puppets, we haven't really seen them in prime time except with the Muppets, and now there's a resurgence of them. They're back on TV, or they have in this last season. What does it feel like to see yourself on TV and depictions of your kind on TV?
Well, I am happy to see the Muppets back on TV. I mean, Alf, he gave us a bad reputation. I'm going to say this bluntly, puppets do not eat cats. No. Dogs sometimes, but not cats.
I wish you hadn't made a dog-eating joke.
Oh, I'm sorry. I do not mean to say that at all. No, nothing like that. Oh, my gosh. Oh.
So in this episode, we saw Dave not fulfill the challenge of the push-ups and for Grandpa and Dave to go double or nothing with the speed challenge. So Dave, it turns out, runs super fast when the ice cream truck comes. And we know that Popeye turns super strong with spinach. Is there something that makes you have a superpower at all, Captain Lavender?
I would like a superpower that would make me feel loved.
Oh, I love you, Captain Lavender.
Oh, thank you! Now I feel so strong I can fly! But I just sit here still, don't worry.
So we forgot to talk about in this episode how one of the ways that Dave blackmails Molly is because she has this fake ID that she was hiding. Have you ever had a fake ID, Captain Lavender?
Oh, should I tell? Yes, I did. Because I wanted to be taller.
And
I said I was 4'7" on my ID. And I felt like a giant.
And how tall are you reeling, or do you not want to say?
You never ask a puppet his height.
Well, this has been a fun season. What was your favorite scene in Dr. Ken this season?
Every time I turn the TV on, he there.
Yeah, I really love that Dr. Ken was on the air as well. So this is a great time for us to say congratulations to the Dr. Ken Show for completing their first full season.
Yay!
We hope that you have a season 2. And for us here at Post Show and Tell, this is our final episode of this season.
No more me? This is it?
Just for now.
Oh, okay.
And we hope that we'll see you back next season. But we want to thank also all of our fans and our viewers. And so normally we ask for a question and ask you to respond in. We'd like you to send in a video response of, something that you thought about for Dr. Ken, what you'd like to see in season 2. And you can always tweet at us at Post Show and Tell, like us, subscribe to us, do all that fun stuff on social media.
You can find me on Tinder.
And Captain Lavender, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And for being my final guest in season 1 of Post Show and Tell. And we hope to see you next time.
Bye.